Hello everyone. As I'm sure you're all aware by now, yesterday there was a shooting at Umpqua Community College in Oregon State. If you're not aware, I was raised in the Northwest and I currently reside in the greater Portland metropolitan area. So this hit a little close to home for me, even though it's about 3 hours south. There are some important facts that need to be taken into consideration to look at the event in a broader spectrum other than an isolated, tragic, horrible incident. This last year, Oregon passed an expanded background check, so every single gun transfer and sale that occurs within the state of Oregon has to have a background check done on the person who wishes to buy the gun. This passed along party lines against the recommendations and the suggestions of basically every county sheriff in the state of Oregon, including the Douglas County Sheriff. He testified before the Oregon Senate and told them that this would not help reduce gun violence at all. However, it was passed and it was signed into law earlier this year, so Oregon now has a universal background check law. What didn't happen this last year in the Oregon Senate was increased mental health funding in our rural counties. Almost every single county in Oregon qualifies as rural according to the federal definition. I think we only have 2 or 3, and those are all around Portland, that do not qualify for rural. Douglas County is a rural county, and there was a bill that was sent that wasn't let out of committee. So basically the bill was crafted into committee, and when the vote came up to bring the bill out of committee to get voted on within the House, it failed to get voted out of committee. That means that it was left in committee to die. This vote was done completely along party lines. All Republicans voted for the bill, all Democrats voted against the bill. I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about the ramifications of that. And I'll provide the links for the bill and everything else in the comments below, so you can check it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go and look at the bill, look at the timeline of events on the state legislature website, and see that what I'm telling you is the truth. Democrats in the state of Oregon decided that passing a gun law, where they were told by all the experts that it wouldn't help at all, it would not reduce gun violence at all, they passed it. But something that we know improves the life and the quality of people within our state and helps reduce violent crime and crime overall, they didn't vote for it. That's hypocritical in the extreme. The cognitive dissonance between those two ideas, those two concepts, is so dramatic that it is hard for me to express it in a way that doesn't involve vulgarity. I'm trying to keep this video clean. Yesterday, our president came out at approximately 6:15 Eastern Time and made his first press conference about the event. Our POTUS spent more time discussing gun violence than he did the tragic incident that occurred to the victims and the families. He talked more about politicizing the event than he did about what can be done to help the victims and their families heal and grieve and move forward with their lives. He talked more about his agenda than he did the people who were actually hurt. And that's also unacceptable. Mr. President made a comment that shootings were up dramatically, and they're not. FBI crime stats show that crime, especially violent crime, continues to be on a 20 to 30 year downward slope. Anecdotal reports show that as gun sales increase, violent crime decreases. He made the case that states with the most restrictive gun laws have the fewest gun deaths. The numbers on that are fudgy, because when people talk about gun deaths, they also include suicide by firearm, which is intellectually disingenuous. To include a drive-by shooting in the same category as someone who takes their life with a firearm is silly. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The cities with the highest gun control laws, the tightest restrictions on guns, Washington, D.C., led the country for deaths by gun. Chicago is a very similar story, has some of the hardest gun laws in the country, and yet still has uncontrolled gun violence. Gun violence. This is a tragic time for our country. It's a continuing time of political and social upheaval, and it is unfortunate that there are people in positions of power who famously don't let a tragedy go to waste. Some might argue that I am being hypocritical by politicizing this, since I mentioned politics, obviously. And you might be right, except that our president said quite clearly yesterday that this was a political issue and that he was going to make it political. And every time this happened, he would bring the politics into it. So it's only fair that I respond in kind. The numbers don't back up what he's saying. The actions of at least the Oregon State Legislature don't back up what they say they want to do. If you want to make a difference in people's lives, if you want to reduce true violence and true crime, we need to look at where most of this violence and crime takes place, which is in urban cities, inner urban cities. And you need to look at what is driving these people to do it. And the demographic is 15 to 25-year-old males, which is prime gangbanger territory, as I'm sure you all know. There's something wrong in the culture of people who would engage in an act like this. And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about anyone who is in a situation where they feel like being in a gang or following that type of lifestyle is their best choice. Maybe it's the only path they know. Maybe they feel like they have no other options. I don't know. I'm not in their shoes, and I can't speak for their motivations. But I think it's important that we look at this according to the facts. It's irresponsible and immoral to make laws based on emotion as opposed to facts. But more importantly, this is a time where we should all draw together, and we should send our prayers and our best wishes to UCC and to all their affected families. And we need to wish them healing and love and support. And everyone on both sides of this issue need to make sure that they don't let their own personal feelings come to the forefront. It's not the appropriate time, it's not the appropriate place. And quite frankly, your personal opinions on something are less important than their grief. It's as simple as that. Our opinions, our desires are less important than the grief and the suffering that these people are feeling, and we all need to keep that in mind. And we all need to do everything we can to support them, even if it's just a prayer, or if you don't believe in God, send good thoughts their way. Do something in your life to make a difference for someone around you so that they know that there are people around them who love and who care. Be safe. Tell your friends and family you love them. Remember that you're owed no extra days, and do the best you have with what you got. God bless.